to the ComedySportz Podcast, starring your host, Christine Rollo Capriolo. Today, playing first base for the second time, it's Alan Cinnamon Thunder Guszkowski.
Hey, welcome to the ComedySportz Podcast. This week we have Alan Guszkowski's in the house. Alan, how's it going?
I'm good. Hello, everyone.
Oh, we're so glad you're here today. Thank you for coming.
This is going to be fun. I'm excited.
It's going to be super fun. Alan, I want to start back at the beginning.
Cool.
Where are you from?
My mom.
And the jokes begin.
Yeah,
no, where are you from?
It's tragic. It's going to be all the time. I'm born and raised Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. So just outside of Milwaukee.
Okay, little suburb of Milwaukee.
Little suburb, little look at all the lame white kids.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You fit that well.
Yeah, grew up in Tosa, went to Catholic school for 1st through 8th grade.
Okay.
So that's either going to make you or break you, and it broke me.
Broke
so
you.
yeah, I'm
Catholic guilt.
Well, no, I'm proud of the things I do wrong, so it's not quite guilt.
It's not guilt, it's just...
I just know, yeah, it's more of a proclivity for doing the wrong thing, because it's like, I shouldn't, so I will. But then switched it up to Wauwatosa East for high school.
Good.
So private school, public school, I liked the mix.
The mix.
It was nice. It was
I did
fun.
the opposite.
Oh,
I
you
went to public through 8th grade.
Sure.
And then private.
You're
high
one of the
school.
pious kids, aren't you?
I am
The
a pious
ComedySportz
kid.
Milwaukee pious
I know,
dynasty.
one of a friggin' million.
Yeah.
But anyway, but then where'd you go to college?
UW-Milwaukee.
And you studied?
Theater. Well, it's TRE, so I studied theater instead of theater.
That's a huge difference.
It is. It's a pretentious difference that I do not enjoy.
So I want to hear about all the jobs you've had other than ComedySportz.
Sure.
Tell me about what you've done.
All right, so like way back at the Catholic grade school when we'd have like basketball, volleyball, like tournaments and games
Yeah.
and stuff, I actually helped run like the concession stand and then scoreboard later on.
Oh, you got paid for that?
I did.
The
Plus,
nuns paid you?
Well, they hit me less.
Okay.
So, no, it was, I can't remember the guy's name now. He was like somebody who was somehow attached to somebody in the school, but he was the guy that like just set up the tables and had all the equipment and would just kind of
Sure.
like run it. It wasn't school official, but it was because they wanted him to do it. But he wasn't like a teacher
Okay.
or anything like that. So I got paid, not great. I mean, it's just like cash, like $5 for the whole day or whatever, but free candy and soda. And as a
Hello.
6th through 8th grader, I'm like, better than cash.
Right? That's huge.
Yeah.
All right.
So just doing that kind of stuff. And then it was all little like lame odd jobs. Like I worked like the front desk at the Tosa WAC for a while, the
Okay.
Wisconsin Athletic Club. And my dad does stuff with like title insurance and mortgages and liens and all that stuff. So he knew somebody who, for a summer, I worked in the basement of the county courthouse.
Wow.
Like pulling liens for like properties and stuff. And they'd like, there's this dispute. So then they'd send me to like,
The basement?
well, like, no, I was in that, like, looking at, like, microfiche, like, legit basement stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but they'd send me to where you'd go for, like, the child support payments. And I was like, and this is when I was, like, sort of dabbling in sports a little bit already.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want anyone to think that I'm, like, a degenerate, like, 'cause he's here all the time. How many kids does he have out of wedlock? I'm just like, I had that really weird paranoid thought where I was like, I don't know how old I was, but I look 12 now,
You
so I
do.
probably looked 7 then. So no, they probably thought he's here to collect his child payment. So I really shouldn't have worried.
Well, weren't you like a scientist, something, a character in a... What did you do?
So after that, then I went, when Discovery World had its theater group. So like
Okay.
there was science shows or there was just like giving tours in character and stuff like that. So a lot of like school groups coming in and then I perform. They learn some stuff, but it's mostly about like wackiness and like, it was all like Fire and Ice was the show.
Okay.
It was the big one that we did a lot. So it was like playing with liquid nitrogen
Ooh, fun.
and like propane and
Oh.
like, yeah, like so fun stuff. And they really were just kind of ignoring me while I talked about the science. Because it's like, yeah, I just want to smash the orange into pieces too. That's all I want to do. And watch you all like run away from it because we've told you how dangerous these chemicals are.
Right.
And then they moved from the museum to their lakefront spot now. So they closed down the theater program but kept me on. So I just helped out the exhibits guy. So I helped tear down and rebuild most of the old exhibits.
Really?
Yeah.
How long were you there doing that?
Ooh, that was probably about 2 years total, like, so for the theater. And then, like, once they got things up and running, the upper management was not overly fond of artistic endeavors. So, like, the theater kind of shut down for a while. So
Okay.
that's when I kind of, like, went elsewhere.
Okay.
But then, like, the big job was, like, the grown-up job was Horizon Home Care and Hospice. A home care, like an in-home hospice care agency. I just did the billing, which was terrible. Because it's like, if it's the insurance and all that stuff, you're giving people bad news when they already have bad news. So I tell people my job, like at sports, they'd be like, oh, is this your only job? And I'd tell them about my real job. and they'd get so sad. I'm like, yeah, that's why I do this on the weekends, to sort of like refill the soul.
You need it.
Yes.
Yes.
But then it was a job which was stable enough and gave me money enough that allowed me to put a ring on a beautiful woman's finger and a house over our heads.
Oh, that's lovely.
But now I just get to do improv full time.
I know we're going to get to UWM in a bit.
Yeah.
But tell me then, how did ComedySportz enter your life? How did you know about it? What happened?
Well, I've always known about it because it's one of those things. It's been around for long enough that you always knew of it. I didn't go there a whole lot when I was little, but I knew of it. It kind of started because despite what I said about, the Catholic kid who's like, I didn't really get into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But I had a real smart mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, talking back was what my mom got very sick of very quickly. So it's like I always had that thing where you hear something and you just snap right back with it, which I didn't know was called improv. She just called it, my God, why are you doing this? But later on, when she found out like what ComedySportz was, she's very proud. She loved, my parents are both very happy with what I do.
Yeah.
But when they first heard about what it really was, they were like, oh, so people are now paying to go watch you do what drove us nuts in this house
And you get
for
money for
18
it.
years. Yeah. So like all they're doing is encouraging you. I'm like, correct.
So your mom persuaded you to do it?
Well, she had the whole like, use what you have for good somehow.
Yeah.
And then in 6th grade, now they're called high interest days, but we called it Discovery Day.
Okay.
And sports came and did it every year.
Okay.
And as a 6th grader, we weren't supposed to be able to take it, but it was in my homeroom. And for some reason, like I just got on the list.
Okay.
And to this day, I wish I could remember which ComedySportz players were there.
You don't remember?
I can't. I remember this was far back enough where they sent a lot of people. There were 2 guys and a girl.
Okay.
And I
wonder who the girl was.
Right. But I can't.
You can't.
For years I've tried to but it's not happening.
Yeah.
And so I was in the class, in their, just the showcase that they do. And I'm in there and performing like with them. And I get up there and they're just kind of watching us and having a good time. And I did a quick, just like, what are you doing? I did some stuff.
Yeah.
And at one point they all laughed really hard. Oh. And I walked out of that class in 6th grade being like, I made the professional funny people laugh.
What year are you talking here?
So 6th grade, that would have been 93, 94, depending on what time of year it was.
I always think of the ladies because there were so few.
Right.
Up until now. I mean, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But,
But back
like
in the day,
Rosie
it's like-
Friedman. I mean, it could have been.
It might have been. And it's... Having met people since then,
Yeah.
I know it's confused my memory. Because in my head, I'm
Yeah.
like, it's probably Bill. It wouldn't have been Bill.
No, it wouldn't have been Bill.
He was too young.
He was in high school still,
Right.
right out of high school.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like there are people that I've now put
Right.
there, but I know couldn't possibly have been.
So did you do high school leagues then? Is that how you got into ComedySportz originally?
So there was not a team when I was there until my senior year, and I heard about it too late.
Okay.
So like I went to all the in-school practices and like hung out with those people.
Okay.
But I didn't actually go and perform.
Okay.
So then when I was at UWM, Dick Chudnow got together with a theater teacher there who also did some ComedySportz, Raylene McMillian.
Yeah.
So they got together and basically came up with like an improv class for UWM's theater.
Wait a second. So you're from the UWM kids?
I'm like, for a good long stretch, I was the only person to come out of that class and get into sports that way.
I had no idea.
I was in the first class ever.
I didn't know how you came to be. So what year was the first class at UWM?
It was the spring semester, so it was like 2001.
Okay.
maybe.
I had no idea you were a UWM kid.
So we took the first level. We basically begged Dick for a level 2, so that's why now there's an advanced. Took that. The final performance, like the final exam, was to put on a performance. Still is. And for that one, it was back at the Jefferson Place.
Okay.
And for no added extra pressure, on the night of our show, a full remote came back. So the players, the pros, got drunk at the bar and then came and sat in the very back to watch the kids put on a show. And somebody told us about it.
And I can already hear who's laughing in the back.
Oh, yeah. So like, but somebody was like, the pros are here. And we're like, why would you do this to us? But it was a very fun show. And that's when Eric Price came up to me afterwards.
Okay.
And basically I knew of him, but like we'd never actually met.
Sure.
And he's like, hey, you need to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he's like it's not quite auditions, it's like the call where you used to show up one night and everybody's like different level. You'd like try out and move on that way. And this is when I first met you, actually.
I don't remember it.
You were running the desk.
What desk?
Like the table where you'd walk up the stairs and like you were at a table and there's like all these like who's going to 104, who's going to 101, like all these things.
That would not have been me.
I guarantee it was.
Okay.
Because this is one of my favorite stories.
And you're sure it was me?
It was you.
Was this an audition night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you were just like running the table.
I never did that.
Like the sign-in.
Okay.
Oh, I could, like it is.
You know it's me?
Well, because...
Okay, tell me the rest.
So I get there, and I don't know what I'm doing. Eric had just told me, like, audition for the minor league, because that's what he ran.
Okay.
So I get there, and I show up, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm here to audition for the minor league. And you literally, like, gave me this. You're at the table, you looked me up and down, and then said... Do you mean 103?
That sounds like me.
This is why I'm almost positive it was you. And then I'm like, well, Eric said minor league. And then you're like, tell you what. You're like, I'll put you in 104. Like doing the kid a favor. It was a solid. And then Eric happened to be walking behind me. He's like, Alan, great. Looked at you and he's like, he's in with me. And like so you just wrote my name by minor league?
I have no recollection of doing this, nor do I think it was me. Even though it kind of sounds like that snark would be me.
It was like completely
but like,
that, yeah.
I remember doing auditions in the black box at the old place.
Yeah. But like this was like a sign-up table because, you know, you'd walk up the stairs and then there's like that caged-in ticket window thing.
Yeah, I don't think that was me. I've never done that.
Oh, I would have sworn up and
I'll
down
take the
forever.
snark, but wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
So then you went in what? You auditioned?
Yeah, like it was like kind of open tryouts, like just...
Because we auditioned people like, I swear, only 1 or 2 times.
Well, it wasn't the big audition. It was like first night, like go get assigned to your workshops, meet the instructor kind of thing. But for the minor leagues, it was an audition because you had to audition for that. But everybody else, I think it was just like, I'm here for
whatever
the
workshop.
next level you would be moved into. And so I just do that. It was there was a couple of us, I think 2 of us from UWM actually got talked to about it and showed up, did that. And then Eric just did the typically comedic jerk thing where like 3 days later, like I get a phone call. He's like, hey, it's Eric. I'm like, oh, what's going on, man? He's like, hey man, listen, you did so well. It was so much fun watching you. This is the worst part of my job. And I'm like, heart like through the floor. I'm like, oh wow. He's like, because I have to sit here and tell you have to start giving up your Wednesday nights because you're in the minor league. And I was like,
gotcha.
The Shyamalan twist before it was a thing.
So what year is this?
This is like this is just later on in 2001.
Okay.
And that was it. Like I started showing up to minor leagues and like 3 or 4 months in, he was just like, you're going to call in for shows now.
Right.
And again, just be like, okay.
Sure.
And then started doing shows and he talked to Bob and he's like, we're going to throw you in a remote. I'm like, okay.
All right.
Like it was so I say like, it's not even mentoring. Like he was like a mentor.
Right.
But he literally was just like, go. Like just pushing me through
it.
every doorway.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm here. So okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, well, look at you.
And now, yeah.
So since 01 about.
Yeah.
All right. That's so funny. I still think of you as relatively new.
So do I.
Because because everyone's like, oh, you have to interview Alan. And I'm like, Alan, he's been here for like 4 days. But I guess it's been a lot longer.
Like, I look like I'm one of the old folks now. And it's
Right,
just
you
like,
are.
Oh, man.
I know.
It's weird.
So when you started playing pro shows, tell me about that, your mindset. Here you are on stage with a bunch of, people who've been there for a while. Eric Price, who's fantastic on stage. What were you thinking?
I was just holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
Like, hang on to any little laugh I got, especially if I was making, like, the players in the other dugout laugh. They're
Okay.
like, good, at least they know. They know what I'm dealing with here.
Yeah.
If I need to figure out how to work the audience and work the show, and that just takes reps. But as long as the other players are like, he's got something. He's funny.
Right.
It needs to be, like, fine-tuned, and he needs to figure it all out. But he's got something. That's all I was trying to, like, convey to people.
Well, you've always come off with a lot of confidence, I feel like.
It's the high energy thing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I guess there's a lot of rules of improv, but fail big was the one that kind of hit hardest. Like, if
Okay.
you're not sure about something, go the other way. Like, go big, overconfident, too big, too out there and everything. Because then either way, even if they're laughing at how outrageously incorrect your confidence is in that situation, you're still getting the laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. So that's what you follow then, is just go big or go home. You're always...
Yeah, go big, try something. Just the teamwork aspect is also super fun. 'Cause you probably got it a lot too, is people come up after the show like, so do you do stand-up too?
Right.
Yeah. And I'm always like, no, thank you. Like, I'm with my friends.
Yeah.
We're teamwork, it's so much more fun.
Right.
And for me, I'd have to get heckled because I'm only good like again, that talkback thing, like quick responses. So you'd have to say something jerky to me, and then I can one-up you.
Right.
And that's not a good way for a stand-up to have to build a set.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's like the teamwork aspect of you get to hang out with all the funniest people because
For sure.
nobody else is funny the way I'm funny.
Right.
Which means I get to laugh at their stuff because I'm not just going to be like, oh, those things I did.
Yeah.
Like they're doing the things that I'm enjoying watching.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you feel like you got this? Okay, I'm comfortable. I'm doing this. These people.
It's a weird question because for me, the answer is I don't and right away.
Yeah.
So it was like you said, that confidence, like you play that off, you do that enough as a character that you're just like, I got this.
Right.
Obviously, you learn, you grow, you get better at the games and all that kind of stuff. But
Right.
also the thing of fully comfortable, fully understanding it, I don't think I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell every workshop, every class, everything that I've ever taught, I tell them right before their show, I'm like, I still get nervous before we do this. And they're like, what? I'm like, nervous doesn't have to mean incapacitatingly, like, I can't do this. It's just that little, like, that twinge, that energy, the butterflies. It's like, if I don't get a little nervous doing this, I don't want to do this anymore. That's the fun part. That's the get out and see what happens.
Right.
If I know, like, this is going to go perfect, like, well, that's boring.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I took quite a bit of time off having babies and such.
Yeah.
So I feel like now coming back, it's such a different place. Mm-hmm. You've kind of stayed through that whole time. What do you think of as like when you started in 01 to now? What's changed for you, or what have you noticed?
It's much more an environment I enjoy.
Yeah.
Like the way everything happens now, the interactions, it's all better. Because like you mentioned, it was a boys' club and it followed the stigmas of that.
Yeah.
Which as a guy, I found certain enjoyment in with like, oh, the hazing and it's rough, but it's what the guys do. And then when you get accepted, there's that good kind of feeling. So like there are aspects of that being a guy I didn't hate. But now I've always been more like, I do this to make people happy. I want people to have joy because of what I'm and all of us are doing.
Right.
Because that's what selfishly gives me joy, is to do that for other people. And I think the people that are here now and why they do that is a lot more of that.
Okay.
It's less like vanity ego and more make people happy, find joy in whatever we're doing and just bring a little light to people.
Yeah. And plus you're more experienced now. So you feel you're very welcoming to new people.
I hope. I mean, that's kind of the goal.
Right.
For me.
Yeah. Well, did you feel welcomed?
Yeah, but again, it was a different kind of welcoming.
Yeah.
Because it was like that welcomed in, but there's that boys club feel. So it's like welcomed, but it's more like when you have like the big brotherly thing where it's like, oh, you're welcome. They're probably going to wrestle you to the ground and choke you. Right. But it's like, but that means they like you. So it's like this welcoming, I just try to be like the question I always ask new improvisers, especially if I think that they've had a rough show.
Yeah.
Because I remember that the first 3 years is, here's what I did wrong in that show. Here's the laugh I didn't do. Here's the offer I didn't take the right way.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like that's all my brain did. So if I sense that somebody's had kind of a rough show, that if they think they've had that, I ask them like, so what did you like about your improv tonight? Like, why do you do this?
Right.
And because it's fun is never an answer I accept.
Okay.
Of course it's fun. It's why we do this.
Right.
Why do you do this?
Yeah.
What's sparking you? What's weird about you that you have to do this? Because people say comedians all have like damage or a trauma, like, you know, like stand-ups, like there's a dark side, like there's got to be something wrong with them if they're in comedy. And I think something wrong with us is the wrong way to put it, at least for my experience with comedy sports. But there's always something, there's a reason we do this. But I think the reasons people are doing it now are a lot more wholesome and positive as opposed to like just feeding the ego, like I said.
So why do you do it?
I do it because my whole thing has just been make people smile. Like since I was a little kid, it's like I didn't speak up or like talk back just to be a jerk. Like you're gonna laugh too. And my mom, that is something she said later on. She's like, "Oh, I was so mad," and then you'd walk away, and she's like, "Don't let him hear you laugh," because she's like, because it was a good line. She's like, "You had good lines, but I wasn't about to like let you get away with that."
So you're the class clown too?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So it's always kind of been this motive for me, but there's one particular day where it kind of like, my whole thing kind of coalesced for me. Senior year of high school, there was a car accident and we lost one of our classmates. And that the day of the funeral, everybody was just sort of like zombified or crying or like just walking around. Like,
terrible.
Yeah. Like very much out of it. And everyone's got a different mechanism for that.
For grief, yeah.
Right. So mine was make them happy for a moment, for a second.
Just give them something.
Get them something.
Yeah.
And that, like, at the end of that day, I'd done a really good job of that. Like, I'd given a lot of people, like, those kind of moments.
Yeah.
And so that day, it, like, kind of just popped into my head, like, the phrasing for it. So for me, if I go out through my day and if I interact with somebody, see somebody, meet somebody, whatever, if they smile or laugh or have any little bit of happy because of something I did that they wouldn't have had otherwise in that day, I win.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I woke up that day.
Right.
Like, I win. I get that victory.
Right.
So, like, that day was just pressure releases all over the place. And then for me, too, because then I didn't have to think about it because I was worried about
everyone
making them not
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
So it worked perfect. So that's my whole thing is I'm just trying to make you laugh more and be happier than you would have been if I wasn't around that day.
Right, right. So do you share that when you teach at UWM?
I teach the class that I took.
That's crazy.
So it was, what would that have been? Probably 13 or so years, like after I'd taken it.
Yeah.
That now I'm teaching those classes.
So how did that come to be?
So this is when I was working at the billing department job. So Dick calls me out of the blue one day. He's like, "Hey, you have a job, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." He's like,
unfortunately.
Right. He's like, "You hate it, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. Thanks for bringing it up." And he's like, "Well, listen." And then he just laid out this thing where I take over because he was still teaching it. He's
Okay.
like, "I think the kids want younger energy, a new perspective, like all that kind of stuff." So he's like, "I want you to start teaching it." I assumed he'd brought it up to other people. So we get to the chair of the theater department's office where I'm thinking like, it's the first official meeting of all this stuff. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And Dick's like, "Yeah, so I'm done." And I just turned and looked at him like,
"What?
Wait, what? You didn't do this part already?" Like,
They didn't know.
they had no idea.
God.
So Dick was like, "I'm out. This is your guy." And it's just like, that's not how this works.
You're like, "Hi, I'm Alan."
Right. Well, so We talked. Dick was in the meeting still. Like, we all talked. I had the resume at the ready. Like, he looked it over. Leroy is the name of the theater chair at the time. And he was just like, well, we need to send this resume around and get, like, confirmation from, like, a few other of the faculty. Well, of the 4 names he gave me, they were all former teachers of mine, and I was friends with 3 on Facebook.
Oh, nice.
And,
so you were in.
And as I was leaving, I go to Leroy. I'm like, oh, by the way, say hey to Matt the next time you see him. He's like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, I went to high school with Matt, his son.
Oh my God.
So it was just kind of like this perfect,
right. It was meant to be.
So it was like I knew all the right people, but then also I graduated from that college, from that school, from the theater department, and I had taken those classes.
Right.
And then I'd basically been doing like graduate level study for 15 years in the field. Right. So it was all just kind of this nice, perfect.
So it was, yes, you're in, definitely.
Yeah.
And then you started teaching that fall?
Yep.
And what you said there was like an intro class and then you got an advanced class?
Well, so Dick had already started the advanced class because basically when I was in the intro, we're like, we need more of this. Yeah. So it used to go like intro every semester, advanced just the spring. But lately, there's been so much demand for it that they've given me the advanced every semester. And
we're talking, you said 2013 maybe this was starting?
This was 2014, I think. Yeah, the fall of 2014. Wow. Was the first one.
You lucky son of a gun. Yeah. So you get to teach improv at UWM.
It's teach and perform. My whole life is improv in terms of like a job.
That's awesome.
I'm unbelievably lucky.
That's so great. So what is different? Have you ever taught workshops at sports?
Yes.
So what's different teaching at UWM versus at ComedySportz?
Well, you're answering to certain things. Mm-hmm. So like mine is a GRE. So it's a gen ed requirement. Okay. So that has to fulfill certain, like you have to check certain boxes for the university. So like, it's not just I get to do and teach whatever I want, whenever I want. There's a little bit more of a regiment that I have to follow. Okay. Whereas at sports, it's as long as nobody else is teaching those games in their workshop, you can do what you kind of want to. Right. But it's nice in that they come in not knowing what it is. Because for the sports workshops, somebody got it for you as a gift or you thought it sounded fun.
You've been to a show, you totally know what it is.
Right. Yeah. You're in for this for some regard, like you're doing this, you're making this choice. Yeah. I have people coming in and they're like, we had no idea what this was going to be. Their English is a second language. I've had blind students, a lot of deaf students actually.
What?
So
how does that work?
I'm very fortunate that my class, since I started teaching it, has gone from, this is one of 2 classes that we can take in the ASL and ITP, which is American Sign Language, or the Interpreter Training Program, which is a specific thing in that school, in the ASL school. So it went from, these are arts classes that you can take because you have to take an arts class. It's gone from, these are ones you can take, to we highly recommend this, to in everything but like official writing, every advisor to every student is like, this is the arts class you take. Oh. Because it's think on your feet, perform, be expressive. Yeah. It's everything that they need to do for sign language. Sure. Because you're not just, it's called interpreting. You're not just translating or interpreting. Yeah. You have to perform what the person is saying. Wow. So like to watch them practice their conversations like before class starts, like it's so emotive and expressive. But yeah, and a lot of them have said like this is so helpful to our major because a lot of them we want to learn sign language, but they don't have a lot of confidence or they have stage fright because that's not a piece that they counted on,
that they thought about at all.
So now that this is sort of their introduction to it, a lot of them stick around and take the advanced too because they're like, I've gotten so much better at signing.
Oh my gosh.
With it. So for that reason, I've had a couple of deaf students and they have full-time interpreters with them.
Wow. So they're kind of getting the class too.
Yeah. And well, they usually send the same couple of interpreters because the interpreters here like, does Alan's class need anyone this semester? Because they love it. They have fun in the class and they love interacting with all the kids and seeing that. And I've become such a better improviser since I've started teaching it more.
Oh my God, yes.
And like the things they tell me will just like, it'll bring you to tears. Like severe anxiety that they come over.
Sure.
A lot of like people come back with PTSD, and so they're taking college courses like later on in life.
Right.
And they're like, this has helped me so much.
That's awesome.
People just like, I was in a really dark place. And this was, so yeah, just the things that they've shared with me is like, okay, yeah, you're giving me what feels like way more than I'm possibly teaching you guys.
Aww.
But I think that's how teaching is supposed to go.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm 21 years in.
Yeah.
having a good year.
Also an art teacher.
I am an art teacher, visual arts.
Visual art.
Visual art, yes. But yeah, it can be awesome.
Yeah.
It can be stressful.
Yes.
I mean, you think being an elective that the people who take your class want to be there, but as you probably know, that's not always the case.
Yeah. Well, I do the whole introduce yourselves thing, like, name, major, facts about you. And then I also ask reason for taking this class. And I preempt it for them. I'm like, and just so you know, because it's a requirement, does not insult me whatsoever. So if that's what it is, just tell me, like, because I just want to get a sort of a take on it. But most of it is, it's rewarding to hear like, oh, my roommate took this and said it was great. I've always been interested in comedy. I did improv in high school. There's a lot of that. But the best are, well, it's required because they're in ASL.
Yeah.
Like it's required, but also everyone I've heard just says this is the most fun class.
That's so great. What's it called?
So the intro is theater games.
Okay.
But then the advanced class is called advanced improvisation.
Okay.
Why they changed the name around like that, I don't know. It has caused headaches for people trying to find it. So it's like, I always make sure to tell them, like, this is what it'll be called. Here's the course numbers.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now you play with some people that you taught.
Yeah.
For example, my partner in crime here,
So
Kyle.
for a long time, it was just, I was the only alumni to come out of that particular part of the program.
Right.
But actually, they were in two different intro classes, but got together in the advanced class. So two UWMers actually are now working at sports.
Kyle.
One is Kyle, like you said, your partner in crime.
Yeah.
And Kara is the other one.
Oh.
So they were, like I said, they did the advanced together, which means they both kind of came up into sports pretty much the exact same time. So I've got two of my little babies, my little improv babies, all growing up.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
So tell me how you run notes there. I want to talk about notes. There's this whole weird thing. I'm weirded out by it where people don't think notes are appropriate after a show. And I think, what other job do you work in where you don't get feedback?
Sure.
This is a job.
Yeah.
And you are performing for customers. And I think it's okay to be told that you're doing something well or you should work on something. It is feedback. I don't understand why some people don't like it.
I think the problem is sort of in the labeling. Because like what you just said, all of the positive times you talked about it, you were like feedback, talking about it, as opposed to notes sounds only critical.
Okay.
Even though they're not. And even when like they're done at sports, they're not always critical. Notes, I feel like just has that connotation. So when you're getting a note, it sounds like you're getting punished.
Okay.
You're getting scolded. You're
Yeah, I see
I
that.
think that's part of it, because if it's feedback, it should just be like a conversation.
Sure.
And giving notes, it seems very like everybody listen while complaints are laid out for everybody.
Right.
But I think when it's a conversation, it's better. And that's how I do it with UWM is like, especially when we start to get into scene work, I'll immediately, after a group does a scene, like, great, tell me what worked about that scene.
Yeah.
And the thing that really boosts confidence is 9 out of 10 times overall the class goes, everything, which is like, great. That's the right positive attitude. I'm like, obviously everything did, but get specific. And then when they get to talk about it, they know the scene went well because, well, everyone seemed to listen, or everyone yes-anded, or their volume was good.
Yeah.
So you're getting these notes where if one of those things isn't the case for you, now you hear this is what makes something go well.
Right.
So if I do this, my chances of things going well improve.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think a lot of it now is like, here's a hiccup in the show. And now it feels like, no,
Right. You brought everybody down
Right.
because you told this one note that was so negative.
Yeah. And I feel like choice notes are so rough. And
So explain that for people who don't know what that is.
So choice notes would be like in a scene, if you're at like a barbershop and you ask for a haircut, it's like, oh, now if you'd asked for a shave instead, this is what could have happened.
It could have happened. This would have been funnier if you said that.
And it's just like, well, that's not how any of this works.
Right.
Like, that's not what improv is.
Right.
Like, go write a script if that's what you think.
So talk about an appropriate note then.
I think an appropriate note would be, so if it was something like, the note would be like, we need to move the scene.
Right.
So the appropriate note is like, hey, did you guys feel like you just kind of were talking without anything
Happening.
like without anything to do? Like, did you guys just feel like, why can't we make something happen? And they're
Right.
like, yeah. I'm like, what could have happened? And then it's just anything they say, you're like, yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Any choice they make. So I don't have a lot of like quotes or whatever, but kind of a mantra I've taken on for both workshops, especially workshops, I suppose. Like, I mean, doing the shows, playing the same thing, but especially when I'm teaching and trying to get people to understand what could happen, is any choice is the right choice as long as it's a strong choice.
Oh.
So it's like,
That's true for life.
Right. But it's like, so like, what if I did this? That would have been the right thing. But what if I had done that?
Yep.
Also true.
Yeah.
Like the best is if everyone's doing the improv together, they're yes-anding your choice, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make a big choice, that gives them something big to yes-and. Like, you can't miss a big choice.
Yeah.
So like, just keep going huge with any idea.
Right.
And then trust that because of the nature of it, everybody's going to yes-and get on board and have that same, have your back and have that fun with you.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So I didn't know, nor do I know yet.
Yeah.
What the heck is your nickname?
So there's a long and winding story for that on me. So all of us have our pictures up on the wall, and there's the chosen nicknames on there. That one is what I go by with certain people, which is Cinnamon Thunder.
Cinnamon
Thunder.
Where did that come from?
It's a weird thing I've said for a long time. I'm not, it's for
About
me.
yourself?
Yes. What it would just be like, I've always been a fan of just like weird things. Like somebody says a weird phrase, and like when The Office came out, it became somebody says something and then that's what she said.
Right.
So my thing before even that was always just like somebody says a weird phrase or a weird pairing of words, and I'm like, oh, that was my band's name in middle school. Like that was my always kind of thing.
Right.
It was either that or then something along the lines of like, they call me Cinnamon Thunder. And it was just two words that I thought sounded very fun together. And it's also, I suppose, pretty telling of me because it's sort of like there's a cuteness, but also probably a stripper name involved in there somehow.
Which is a job we didn't talk about that you've done in the past.
Correct.
But we'll get to that next time.
For a job, you have to be paid, and that I just freelance. I just do that.
Just for fun.
So that's the official nickname, but because some people have names that lend themselves to a nice pun or a nice something, but Alan Guszkowski just kind of, it's
nothing.
It's short and then so Polish. So for me, it was always whoever was doing Mr. Voice, they just fill in the blank.
Oh, okay.
So Guzzy was one, Gas Guzzlin, Guszkowski was one.
I like that.
There were other ones. But yeah, I've lost track of even, because however many Mr. Voices they've been, most of them have a different name. Oh, when Jake Shaw would occasionally do Mr. Voice, it was always Maddie Longlegs.
Maddie Longlegs?
That was so Jacob Bach had a podcast back in the day.
He did.
And it was gay topics discussed by him and his straight friends.
In the straight friends, yes.
Right. So I was at the live one at Pride Fest, and I did drag.
Nice.
I got done up in drag.
Beautiful.
I performed to Beyonce's Love on Top. And so part of that thing was we named her at Pride Fest, like on the show. So what they came up with was Maddie Longlegs. And Jake was sitting next to my wife like at that show, and she's like, he was just giggling the entire time. She's like, he loved it so much.
He loved it. And now he dresses his way at home.
So anytime that I get called out, if Jake's doing Mr. Voice, it's Maddie Longlegs.
It's Maddie Longlegs.
Yeah.
That's
So
fantastic.
I like it because it's sort of a very improv-y thing. Like, what's your nickname? What do you want it to be? You're Mr. or Ms. Voice tonight? Give me one.
That's just rare. I was all the people were interviewing, and it's like I know their nickname right away, and I was like, "What the heck is Alan's nickname?"
Yeah.
Well, look at you.
It's ever-changing.
Improv through and through.
Yes.
Speaking of improv, Alan.
Yeah.
I'm going to have you pick
Oh,
two of these.
two
We got
of
a
these.
bunch of games in front of us on pieces of paper.
All right.
And Alan's going to look at both pieces of paper, tell us the games, and tell us which one's your favorite out of the two.
Oh, all right. Hold on. I've got one. Here's the other. I've got, Chain Murder Mystery and Crazy Country Mixed Up Hijinks.
They're both kind of similar.
They're very similar because it's mime and gibberish, which
Yeah.
is very fitting because those are the games that I love.
Okay.
Guessing is one of my favorite things to do.
You like to guess in a game.
I like to just watch people and can I figure it out?
Yeah.
Do I get what you're
Oh,
trying
yeah,
to
it's
get
like a
across?
puzzle. I love it too.
Oh, man. I guess for me, out of these two, it's going to be Crazy Country.
Crazy Country Mixed Up Hijinks.
So, do I need to explain out what it is?
Sure.
So, Crazy Country is it's for both teams, which is part of the reason I like it. I like getting as many people involved in playing as possible. So, one of the teams leaves, they get a suggestion. The other team does a short scene based on that suggestion. The other team then gets called back into the room and they watch the scene, which gets replayed, but with the player speaking only in gibberish.
Right.
So they see the actions, they don't know what is being said.
Right.
And then the team that left the room has to go and perform the scene they thought they saw.
Yeah.
So putting in English words all over again for potentially a very different scene.
Totally.
And then they swap. Then the other
Right.
team leaves and they do it all over again.
God, I haven't played that one in years.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I love it because I'll see an action and then it's like, I don't even try to guess what it's supposed to be. Because sometimes people will make it obvious. And they're like, wait, I think I kind of get it.
Right.
I'll see one action and be like, nope, this is what that says to me.
Yeah.
And then we'll just take it in that direction.
Yeah.
Because for me, that's more fun.
That's awesome. That's super fun.
Yeah.
Last game here, Alan.
Yes.
Pick two of these Would You Rather cards. We're going to get into your psyche here.
Cool. All right. So I've got, would you rather fight 3 possessed lawnmowers or have a lead-filled body?
That's going to say a lot about who you are as a human being when you answer this.
Okay. I gotta fight the lawnmowers.
You have to.
Cause like there's little pictures on this. The lead line body, it just shows a guy like trying to cross the finish line in a race, like lifting a leg. That I don't picture like, oh, I've got a more lead than normal in my. I figure like my body is a form that's just been poured in lead. Like I'm to the rafters with lead. No, thank you.
No.
But possessed lawnmowers, you sit on them, you're fine. Like if you keep their blade, it's not, it's not like a thresher or like a plow. If you can keep the blades to the ground, what are they going to do?
What are they going to do? Drive you around somewhere?
Right. The most they're going to do is if I have shag carpeting, now it's Berber. Like that's the most they could do if they attacked me in my house. I don't care.
Alan Guszkowski, this was fantastic.
This was so much fun. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming in. I feel like I got to know you more.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel
you're
like I got to know me more too.
Yeah, you're a very positive guy, and I think ComedySportz is really lucky to have you, and I think all those UWM kids are super lucky to have you as a teacher.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's great, and I look forward to performing with you again.
Definitely.
All right, thanks, Alan. The ComedySportz Podcast is produced and engineered by Kyle Hanneken. Our announcer is Mr. PJ Rockwell. Feel free to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Comments and inquiries can be sent to the ComedySportz Podcast at gmail.com. Created and hosted by me, Christine Rollo Capriolo. See you next time.
The ComedySportz Podcast is an independent production made by CSz players. The views and opinions expressed by the podcast host and any guests are their own and do not represent the views and opinions of any CSz location or CSz Worldwide. Vocabulary used by the host and guests is not necessarily representative of the CSz brand.